What's up, guys? It's the end of the year and I've been looking back at some of the photos that I've took over the course of 2017, and it's been a wonderful year of landscape photography. I got to go to so many wonderful and beautiful places, getting up at all times of the morning, early in the morning, late at night, you name it. I was out there shooting and I had a blast. And I want to take you through my top 7 photos of the year 2017. Let's check them out.
Starting things off is one of the first landscape photos I took this year. I believe this was in early February, and I did an early morning hike at the Phoenix Mountain Preserve, which is 10 minutes from my house. I could tell right away that the sunrise would be incredible based on the clouds on the horizon, so I was intent on finding a compelling foreground subject to capture it with. This was pure luck, as I found this big rock outcrop set in the exact right position and angle to photograph the sun shining off one of its sides. I knew the sun would rise directly to the left of Camelback Mountain in the distance, and this scene just fell into place when I got there. Truly an example of being in the right place at the right time, without too much planning beforehand. Seeing it now makes me realize how it could have been technically improved with adjusting the placement of the camera slightly to the right to give the foreground rock more breathing room on the right side of the photo. But overall, it was a great morning, and it really showed me how getting out early can be so worthwhile. Number 6 on the list is this photo of first light hitting the majestic rocks of Sedona. There was some planning that went into the shot in terms of finding a unique outcropping of the beautiful red rocks that got some direct sunlight right when the sun comes up, since much of the Sedona area is actually in shadow at sunrise because of a large mountain range to the east of the town. This was a case of hiking in the dark to get to the spot I had found on Google Earth, and simply waiting until I got the light I wanted. What I didn't realize was how massive these rocks were, and though I'd planned to go for a 17mm shot, it ended up being a 5-shot panorama. Obviously, some interest in the sky would have helped this shot, like some clouds or a bit more atmosphere, but as it is, there's something clean and calming about it, and it really shows the striking glow that the rocks take on at sunrise. The next photo is also a well planned out shot that was simply a matter of getting to the predetermined location at the predetermined time, getting the shot, and going home. It is Cathedral Rock in Sedona, with the Milky Way set directly above it as it moves from east to west across the night sky. I used Google Earth to plan this shot as well, discovering how the Milky Way moves over the rocks in a way that makes it look like a volcano exploding with stars. I also knew exactly where to park the car, which was at the Cathedral Rock trailhead parking lot, and I literally was standing right next to my car when I took this shot. In terms of settings, this was a case of getting a long exposure for the sky, around 20 seconds, at a high ISO to capture as much light as possible, and taking a second shot for the foreground with a lower ISO to reduce noise and a much longer shutter speed of around 3 minutes. Having clear skies and no wind made this quite simple, and after blending the 2 exposures, I really loved the outcome. Number 4 is a classic shot taken probably thousands of times, but it was my first ever visit to Monument Valley, and we had a cabin there for the night, so I knew I simply had to get a shot of sunrise at the famous Mittens area. I also knew that the sun would rise directly between the 2 Mittens at the time of year we went, which was in mid-August. What I did not know was that there would be extensive cloud cover the entire time we were there. I woke up that morning with just a half hour to sunrise, so I quickly grabbed my gear and ran out, trying to find some foreground element to tie into the shot, in case the clouds did open up and offer something nice. I would have liked to find a more compelling foreground element, but I didn't have the time, and in truth, the plant works out just fine. With bated breath, I waited to see if the sun would peek through the clouds at all, and I can honestly say I was not feeling very optimistic. Suddenly, it happened. The sun showed its face through a slim break in the clouds, and I was primed and ready to capture it. Only a few minutes later, the sun was gone again, and we didn't see it again until that afternoon. My third favorite image of the year is this. The the full moon rising at the Superstition Mountains. The first thing I'll say about this image is the feelings I had while taking the shot were not at all what it portrays. While it gives the impression of peace, solitude, and timelessness, I was actually feeling quite irritated and distracted. This was because of the insane amount of traffic I had to go through to get this shot. A drive that should have taken 30 minutes took about an hour, and I was slowly losing hope that I would get to this location in time to capture the moon rising. But get there I did, and not a minute too soon. I literally jumped out of the car holding my camera and tripod, ran to a spot that had some nice cacti in the foreground, set it all up, and started shooting. I was tired, out of breath, and totally not focused at all. But when all was said and done, this turned out to be one of my absolute favorite images of the year. The soft pink hues on the rocks, the glowing light on the cacti from the last light of the sun, and the beauty of that full moon, all wrapped up together makes this a perfect scene. I did struggle with choosing a focal length and ended up at 135mm to get all the elements I wanted, with the moon large enough to visually impact the scene. My 2017 runner-up image is this one. The beautiful rocks of Sedona under a twilight sky with Andromeda Galaxy rising through the streaking clouds. This was absolutely the most difficult shot of the year to take, as it involved blending 8 exposures of the sky to get Andromeda bright enough to stand out, and then blending that with a shot of the foreground. The beauty of taking so many exposures for the sky meant that the clouds in the scene provided an unreal streaking effect, and the soft pink color of the clouds was thanks to the hint of light still in the sky from the sun, which had set maybe 40 minutes earlier. That light also provided some definition in the rocks. I honestly was not sure if Andromeda would be visible with the clouds in the area, but I luckily got it right in the gap, which worked out perfectly. To get Andromeda big enough to add some drama to the scene, I shot everything at 35mm, which made me limit my shutter speed to just 8 seconds per exposure to prevent star trails in the sky. I also had to stack the 8 exposures in post-processing using Photoshop to make sure they all lined up correctly. All in all, a very difficult photo to make, but one that was so worth the effort. Which leads us to my number 1 photo of the year. A truly magical juniper tree set against the beautiful red rocks of Sedona in the morning light. This shot was exactly the opposite of the Andromeda shot before, in that it contained zero planning, almost no post-processing. It was simply a matter of finding and capturing a compelling subject in its most optimal lighting conditions. I was doing a morning hike in Sedona on a high trail and simply came across this juniper while in the trail. As I was marveling at its twisted and elegant shape, I noticed how the morning light was filtering through the clouds to provide a gorgeous soft glow on the entire background landscape. I literally just raised my camera and shot this handheld. I took just one shot. The light was just perfect. The scene was magical, and that was it. It amazes me how my favorite shot of the year was one that was not planned, had no difficulty taking or processing, and it just came out of nowhere. But this really captures the essence of what landscape photography is all about. Being out there and finding something just as the conditions are right, and capturing that moment forever.
So there you have it. Those are my top 7 photos of the year. And there's one thing I've learned over the course of the year. You need to have patience and make sure that you're having fun doing what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to come away with nothing. That's all for now. Enjoy, guys. Have a great year next year, and I'll see you on the other side, 2018.